Awesome. Well, we are live. John, I appreciate you hopping on today. Very excited to meet with you and discuss all things IT and ministry and your experience and how you got involved in everything. And so, if you wouldn't mind just kind of opening up here, I'd love to have you do an intro and talk a little bit about how you got to where you are and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me. Super pumped. This hopefully will be fun. But yeah, I mean, I guess by title, I'm director of IT here at LCBC Church. We're a pretty large organization with 25 sites around Pennsylvania, 25 campuses of varying different sizes and shapes. And I head up the IT department and the production department also for all of the AVL gear. But my history is back when I was 17 years old, I got a job working for a company, an international company, and ended up at some point being their director of global information technology. And we had sites all over the world and all kinds of great stuff. And it was super fun. I really enjoyed it. And then somewhere in there, around 2012, I started to actually work for LCBC as a part-time production tech. So I've always done live audio and have always enjoyed it. And I knew the worship leader here at LCBC, and I was passing by a campus they were building in my town and called him up and said, I'd love to come mix. And he said, you got to try out. And I went, okay, that's pretty cool. Let me try out. And that kind of started a part-time job there at the campus as a production tech. And then we had a shout out to our old campus pastor, Paul Atkinson, who's on staff here. But man, I just got just so in love with the ministry, so in love with life change, the mission. I mean, at LCBC Church, our mission is to introduce people to Jesus and together fully follow Him. And just watching life change happen, I just kind of felt like if I'm not using what I learned and the talents I had to further the mission, am I just kind of missing out on something? And so I applied when they opened up a job for director of IT and jumped into organization that was scaling really quick, and it's been super fun. So that's about 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think it's neat that you have kind of the experience on both the production side as well as like the general IT side, because I know that those are generally pretty siloed. Myself, I'm not a production expert. That's part of what I do as a volunteer at our church, but I'm definitely no expert in that. And I find myself more on kind of the IT software, that sort of side. And it's cool that you have the bridge between those because they do communicate with each other quite often. And so it's a unique skill that you've got. I'm curious, do you have a preference of either one or which one's kind of your passion?
I absolutely love both. IT is obviously where I kind of landed and learned and did. But as we've gotten here, more and more AVL gear is on the network. Like, I mean, you can remember back in the day when certain pieces of gear, you'd have a maintenance or a management port open up, and that you could manage the piece of gear, but it still had its own unique kind of network. In our world now, audio does not sit on a copper snake on the floor anymore. It is Dante, and it's running across the network. Our lighting systems using ARC, they're on the network, and so we do Ethernet to DMX for our lighting systems. And so we're literally like this last week and a half, we've been finalizing our Sinking Spring campus, which is going to light up here this weekend. And man, there's just so much crossover between AVL and IT at this point. In fact, a lot of my AVL guys are certified in some layer of network infrastructure and or certified in things like quality of service. And so they're helping us understand what the AVL stuff needs are, and we're helping kind of scale and build the network. And so there's a ton of crossover, and I've super enjoyed it. But there's nothing like standing behind a audio console mixing out something to 2,000 people in the room and just really like being able to worship and being able to just be in that environment. I don't know. That's a pretty cool thing. And I've enjoyed doing that a lot too. So.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I find it really fun. I'm still learning on kind of the audio piece of how to mix, and I'm admittedly getting trained in that right now. I've been more focused on sort of the visual piece, and obviously we've got a small little church plant, and so everybody's all hands on deck learning all sorts of different things. And I have to say, it is so fun. It's really like a dynamic feeling to put together, the audio piece for worship, and it's pretty exciting. I've really enjoyed that. I could see your passion in that too.
Oh yeah. there's an artistic side to it, and then there's the science. There's literally science involved with audio and
Yeah.
sound waves and everything else. And so kind of understanding both of those and being able to bring a creative, I mean, your goal at a church, right, when you're mixing is to let them sing, let them be able to be connected to God, reduce distractions. And man, you're also kind of protecting the band, like what they're creating and putting out in the room. You are touching and filtering and doing artistic things too to make sure that it lands well. And so, yeah, man, I love it. It's super fun.
Yeah, that's neat. And my understanding is, I mean, you have, obviously you said about 25 sites and whatnot. Some of those are permanent, some of those are, mobile, or I guess, temporary, however you might want to call it. I think you guys have a movie theater that you just jumped into recently.
Yeah, a few of them now.
All of that is so different when it comes to IT from each of those locations. I would love to know a little bit about how you manage that from a perspective of having multiple campuses, but several different situations at each of those campuses.
Oh yeah. So every campus, we've for the fun of it, we've categorized them into 5 configurations. So Mannheim is our largest, and that's a 200,000 square foot building, a 2,500 seat auditorium. And this building here has like a 2 gig up, 2 gig down, fiber connection and a backup and some high end firewalls and everything else. And then 13 different IDFs with switch stacks in them. And then we get down to all the way down to config 1, which is a setup takedown campus is what we call it. But those are meeting in AMC theaters, and you got about 200 people on a Sunday across 2 gatherings. And they're rolling everything in off the trailer, setting it up in the theaters, and then rolling it all back out at the end of the day. And those are supported by a tiny little firewall with a 5G card or an extender in them to give them internet. And so each one's a little different. The way that we've kind of looked at it is we've picked a network provider that can scale accordingly. And so we've picked Fortinet and FortiGate firewalls, and we use their tiny little guys all the way up to the 600 series for the main our main site here. And then every campus in the middle of all that, config 2s to config 4s, they're just using different size firewalls, different number of switches, different number of access points. But yeah, every system we've looked at, we've said, hey, we can't have incredibly unique systems everywhere. So we have to have some scalability, and we have to be able to go into something really small or into something really big. And we have to say, we have some standards, we have some best practices, we need cybersecurity, we need all of that stuff to kind of bake in and across our infrastructure. And so what we've done is we've just aligned ourselves with a vendor that totally understands what we're trying to get to and can make stuff that is made for really small office stuff all the way up to, I mean, our 600 series firewalls aren't even touching, like Fortinet has a $1 million firewall that ISPs use. I wish someday to be that scale to need that firewall. I think it would be fun to work in it. But, it's a lot of how do we get rid of dissimilar equipment? How do we get rid of systems that don't scale well? All the way across the board. We just try to figure out, is a system good for today? Is it good for tomorrow? Will it scale with us to 50 campuses? I mean, God's moving here in Pennsylvania. It's crazy. And we've just got a lot of things that have scaled real quick. And so we're just that's what we've done over the last 5 years, is look at every system, try to figure out, is it good now? Will it scale? What will break first? And we're just trying to kind of approach those and take them out first. Or if it's a good system that will scale, it's like, how do we invest time and effort into that system to make it really, really good?
Yeah. Yeah. And you kind of touched on it a little bit, but so obviously, again, God is moving. You guys are growing like crazy, which is super cool.
Yeah.
How do you, I don't know if this is a word, but how do you systemize that? Is there a checklist that you've got when you open a new campus? I think you said that there's like 5 different types of systems or whatnot that you have, but how does that work?
Yeah. So, well, first, my team is probably watching this podcast. So if I don't give them a shout out, I'm losing a real good opportunity here. And so honestly, I think the best thing that any IT department or anybody at a church can do for themselves is build an IT team that is like second to none, generalists that have specialties. And so I really hire for like either people that are super passionate about the mission and super good at learning, or I hire that are like really specific specialists to things, but just love to be generalists. It's a good start. And so I've got Aaron, I've got Amos, I've got Brett, and I've got a bunch of volunteers. Tom and Stan are probably watching this, and guys, shout out to you. They're just an amazing set of people. And so how we build a campus is pretty cool. Let's go back to the first question, systems. And so when I started here 5 years ago, we had Cisco switches and Ruckus wireless, and we had Sonic Wall firewalls. And so whenever it was time to roll out a campus, it just took longer to roll all that out. You have to know CLI with a lot of the Cisco switches we were using, which makes it hard for a volunteer to jump in unless they have some specialty. The Sonic Wall firewalls weren't exactly the best at that time. They definitely weren't doing good for us. And even our Ruckus wireless, as good as it was just problematic. And so when somebody would come and say, hey, I've got my phone and I'm connected to wireless, but I can't get to the internet, it's like, cool, which system do I have to go look at first? Am I looking at wireless? Am I looking at Cisco? Am I looking at Sonic Wall? And it just makes it hard to figure all that out. So now our Fortinet stacks, we use full stacks, so it's a single pane of glass network. Our new Sinking Spring campus, which is about a 575 seat auditorium, that stack was up and live in 90 minutes. And we pre-built it on the counter here in a few hours. And it's got everything: wireless, switch controlling, VLANing, security, VPNs, everything. And so we just started saying, like, hey, is this system easy to roll out? Is it easy to scale? Is it cost effective? And if it wasn't, we just started to say, cool, what are we going to do to replace that system? And how are we going to move on to something better? The other thing we do, and my team's really great at it, is we create what we call roadmaps. And so we take every system, software and hardware system, and we say, what was it 2 years ago? What have we done in 2 years with it today? And what benefits has it had to the mission, to the budget, to stewarding money well? And then we say, what could it be later? And so, in IT, so many times we bring a system in and we're like, yeah, it's going to solve this one problem. And we spend all this money on it and then never go further with it, never say, hey, there's 8 other things it can do. What else can we do with it? It's like we put our finger in the hole in the dam. We're good. Let's move on. And we just don't do that here. So we roadmap it. I've got Amos, who's my centralized services engineer. And as soon as we buy a product that is like across scalability across the sites and we solve our one problem, he dives in to say, what other 12 problems can we solve with this? And how do we really push this technology harder to get it to where we need it to be? And so we just roadmap. And so that identifies our budget too. So we're restrained by budget. It's not like LCBC's like, John, you can have all the dollars and cents we have. I wish they would. If any of my accounting people are watching, please. But again, we roadmap. And so what we do is we say, hey, this system has a lot of benefit to mission, a lot of benefit to budget. What's our next steps with it? And then what kind of budget, time, effort, cost of ownership do we need to address to it? And then we just figure that out. And so my team just did this. We pass our budgets March to April, or April to March. And so my team just spent the last about 2-3 months ago road mapping every system, figuring out what we wanted to push on and what it meant. And then we took that to leadership and we took that to our budget conversations. And I have every expectation that will be approved, and we'll just start doing that. And we do that every year. We do that with every system. We just, again, if it doesn't meet the scalability need, or it doesn't meet a budget need, or it doesn't meet a staff need, we try to figure out a better solution to it.
Yeah. I think my favorite part about that is the stewardship piece. And you and I have already kind of talked about this offline, of course, but like, I think the coolest thing is that you really use the IT to the whole, and that is stewardship. And these are donor dollars that are paying to make this happen, that are paying to make the ministry run efficiently. And so the fact that you're using those well shows me, of course, and I'm sure everybody else is listening, and anybody, throughout the church that sees the wonderful IT team that you guys have, it just shows like a really, a huge reverence and respect for what is really the Lord's money, but has been used to advance the kingdom. And I think that's cool. And it brings a lot of confidence in that kind of thing. So Yeah, I like that. And one of the other questions too that I've got, and we also talked about this a little bit offline, but you have built a team that is fantastic, and you focus on development of the team. When we talked about that, there's like development of the team. It's not just let's get the job done, but it's how can we all get better at what we're doing? How can we all communicate better with each other? And I'd love to know a little bit of that as well, because I think that that would be useful for any other IT teams, whether in ministry or outside of ministry, just in a general for-profit business. That kind of thing is incredibly useful. So I'd love for you to maybe touch on some of the things that you're doing there to support the team and develop the team.
Yeah, and so we do, and this is across production and IT. I'm a firm believer in um, it's good to be a generalist and it's good to know a little bit about everything. It's also great to be a specialist in something. And so, for instance, Erin is a specialist at help desk. Her SLAs, I mean, her first average response time is under 30 minutes. And she's supporting 300 employees and all the tickets that come in for IT for that. And she's doing that. And so it's like, how do I hire people that are super, super passionate about the mission and then also wired to do that role? And then once we get them on that seat of the bus, then it's like, how do we get them every tool that they need to be successful? I always try to tell folks, I try to take weeds. They're all harvesting, and I'm like, hey, what weeds can I clear and get out of the way for you? And how do we support you and keep you moving forward? And then it's, you become what you celebrate. And so our team celebrates development. Our team celebrates really good help desk service. I mean, anybody that's watching, how many of you guys really love your IT department? And how many of you guys like really, 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 when you ask a question, they are like right on it? Well, we want to be that. We want to have great customer service. And so we really push on that. And then as for development, I think one of the cool things is we've got 2 volunteers that volunteer for us, and they're 2 gentlemen that were directors of IT and built data centers and all kinds of stuff. And they retired and they serve with us. One of them serves about 30 hours a week with us, and the other one serves probably 20 plus hours a week. And man, they are great leaders, and we continue letting them speak into what we do. We continue letting them have a place. Both of them have a desk and computer here. And so it's like, how do we wrap ourselves with people that want to see us succeed? How do we wrap ourselves with fellow staff people that want each one of our lights to shine and to get better and to get smarter and to move faster and to serve well? And then it's like, how can we just get them things? And so Brett, for instance, is my infrastructure person this year. He's like, hey, I want to do Fortinet training. I'm like, cool, I'll absolutely pay for that. And I'll pay for the testing. And we'll absolutely take care of all of that for you. And so I'm always encouraging them. How do we develop? We're reading Unreasonable Hospitality right now, which is a great book, but it's like, how do we show up in IT in places that no one would expect us to show up? And how do we just make a really great experience for people that normally when you go to ask IT something, you're like, oh, I'm going to bug them again. I feel like I'm an annoyance. And we're like, no, we're here to serve. Even if we're in a meeting and our door's closed, if you open our door, we will all turn and try to figure out who can serve you the fastest, which gets kind of awkward when we're all racing to help somebody and somebody hip checks me. But, it's fun. But yeah, development, it's super critical. Like if you're not developing and you're not watching and pushing on your staff to develop, and then giving them the freedom to develop, like find the time and give them the freedom and give them the resources, like you're missing an opportunity. I just think you're missing an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. I mean, it's really the goal is to continue to sharpen your skills. And it's very easy to fall behind too in IT. I mean, you could take 6 months off and like a little sabbatical, you could come back, it'd be completely different.
Totally different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm even thinking about some advances of AI and that in the last 6 months and all the crazy stuff that's come out. It is unbelievable how quick things are moving. And so if you're not able to sharpen those skills, if you're not able to learn more, you will fall behind. And I think there's this misconception too in ministry that it's like people kind of give, half the effort. But I think the cool part is that you guys are showing, no, we give double the effort because we're doing this for a mission. And I think that's a really unique position to be in. And kind of going over the AI thing, we haven't really talked about this, but I'm curious, what advancements in AI do you see that may play a part in how you guys are approaching things at LCBC, or maybe, what things are you interested in exploring for the church?
Yeah, so AI has been super fun. And if you haven't seen it yet, anybody watching or you, Sesame AI, they created it's a neural, natural, like a language processor. And they've got two versions of it, Maya and Miles. But you can go to their website, and they've just got it on a demo right now, but you can actually pick up a call with Maya or Miles, and they will literally have a conversation with you for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And it breathes like a human. It pauses like a human. It will hear whether or not you're angry, being thoughtful, telling a joke. It laughs. It's really, really interesting. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. I literally have this dream. I want this so bad, where my computer has some version of an AI that can say, "Oh, hey, you've been trying to negotiate this with Slack or something like that. They've replied an email and they've said, yeah, we'll give you that discount you want. Do you want me to just write back and approve it?" And I can be like, "Yes, please write back and approve it." Or, "Hey, you've been having this really really important conversation with somebody in Slack. I know that you're often building a campus right now, but they just messaged you back and it looks like you should pay attention to that." And me be like, "Thank you so much. Let me go look at that." And so I really hope someday we get there. I know Skynet. I know we're all scared of the machines taking over. But again, I think we also have to get past the fact that I don't know if, I hate to say this, I think programming is going to completely change, because AI will someday be able to write code, like real code. I think AI will be able to, I'm also thinking of all the dangerous places AI could be used, like for hacking and other things like that. But I think someday we see AI on our firewalls, if we haven't already, that's watching traffic patterns and being able to discern. Like, we already got some of that, but I think it gets even smarter. But no, for us right now, I use OpenAI almost every day for all kinds of stuff. My team also uses it a bunch of different places. Some of the interesting thing that I think that we really want to, we've talked about, how do we make an AI agent on the website? And then leadership said, no, those are real humans. And those are people reaching out for help. And those are people that need ministry, or they need questions answered. We're not going to use some bot to do that. We are going to give them a real live person and a pastoral response. And I'm like, let's go. I love this.
That's good.
So it's like, where in the background can we really use AI? And one of the places is translations. We do Spanish translation, and we have a person right now that does Spanish translation, and she's so awesome, and we love her. But there are sometimes we want to translate more than the gathering, or we want to translate something, an additional gathering, and we want to do it in real time. And there's a system out called Rask.ai, and we've translated our teaching pastors into languages like Russian, Arabic. Wow. We've done Spanish. And so we have a community gathering. There are a bunch of folks meeting in like a church basement someplace, or in like a community center, and they're watching our online. And we use an Apple TV to deliver that to them with Playlister, which is an amazing program. But they watch in Spanish. And so what we do is we take our gathering, we upload it to Rask. It kicks out a transcript so we can clean up the transcript if it gets anything wrong. And then it literally translates our teaching pastor in their voice. And it can dub their mouth, but that's still uncanny. And what I'm worried about someday is somebody walking up to our teaching pastor and just starting to speak in Spanish, and him be like, I know some, don't know a lot. And them being like, well, I've watched you for 1.5 years speak Spanish to me on the screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been a really cool, and that's kind of a low buck thing. And we've used it. We had the possibility of a Russian community group up in Erie, and we were kind of testing out what Russian would sound like in Russian. And their words are so long that the words per minute were so high that it was actually going to be faster than they could understand when the AI. So it's a lot of weird stuff like that. The other place that we've looked at it really seriously is sign language. We have groups of deaf folks that attend certain of our campuses, And right now, that's a pretty large spend. That's about $5,000 a year for us to hire, contract in somebody with sign language. And so we're having more and more problems finding contractors for that
Yeah.
every Sunday. And so we've been like, hey, when is it time? When will we really want to support that community? And we don't want to put them in another room and be like, here, watch this gathering that has closed caption, because closed caption is not the same as sign language. They are two different things, two different languages. And so we've been like, hey, we really want to support them, and we want to support them in the main gathering so they can worship with us. And then when our teaching pastor comes on the screen, they can actually understand what he's saying without having to read the screens. So we've been looking at AI engines to be able to do that. And there's a couple. They're still a little uncanny, but I've got a guy on staff. His name's Adam, and he's incredibly talented at solving really difficult problems. And he was an intern and solved like 3 or 4 problems that we had been working on solving for years. And so I ran over and said, how do we hire this guy as quickly as possible? And they said, yeah, let's give him a path into staff. And so he's on staff, young guy, but man, you hand him anything and he walks back like 30 minutes later going, here, is this what you wanted? And I went, oh, I thought you would take weeks. And he's like, no, here you go. And so he's been the guy that's been sitting on AI and really digging into AI. But we've done, we have a set of folks from different departments that are literally on like a subcommittee that's looking at AI and how do we use it ethically? How do we use it relationally? How do we use it technology wise? So yeah, there's a lot of, I really think someday we'll see an AI engine that helps with cyber. Doing audits and running cyber and kind of like an extra person on staff kind of thing. So honestly, when we talk about churches that are short on resources, if you're not digging into some systems like Playlister, which makes it really easy to roll out systems, if you're not looking at AI to help try to solve things, if you're not looking at Power Automate or Zapier or any of those other like no code kind of automations, like you're kind of missing the opportunity to add more staff or do more with less if you're not kind of digging into those. But man, AI, there's a lot of, did you know, I think it was Google, their AI engine was talking to a researcher and the researcher was asking the AI engine to like create some product. And the AI engine actually realized that there was value to that and quoted them a price to do it. And so this researcher's like, or this person's like, I wonder where this is going. And they're like, yeah, sure, I'll pay $50 for that. And the AI engine produced a PayPal link.
Wow.
The link didn't go anywhere. It didn't do anything. But when they kind of sent this back, the team that created that AI had to go in and learn, how did that thing learn that there was value, like monetary value to that? And then how did it come up with its price? And then how in the world did it make a fake PayPal link all by itself? So, yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, and there's all sorts of opportunities. I mean, you can doom scroll all day and look at all the scary stuff about it. But then there's the other side of it where it's like, are you going to look at this from a half empty or half full perspective? There's so much opportunity. I mean, it has made everybody who's using it, it has made those individuals much more efficient at what they do.
Oh yeah.
There's more output for, less input, which is great. And for me particularly, I can attest, it has made my job far less stressful. I mean, it's incredible the, additional time that I have. And, whether you use that time to work a little bit more, maybe you're just working, maybe you're a 50-hour-a-week kind of person, and there's some people that love to put in all that effort and do 50 hours, and there's some people that want to do 30 hours a week, but they want to put out a 40-hour-a-week product. Whatever you might be, and whatever type of person you are, how are you going to use that extra time? You can use it to work, and whatever you're doing, as long as it's glorifying God, do it. And for me, I get extra time with my family, right? Like that is really the biggest piece. I get extra time with my family because I don't have to work till 6, 7 p.m. on things that would normally have taken me that extra time. And it's wonderful. I get to get off at 5 and it's fantastic. So yeah, it's amazing what it can do, and I'm extremely excited to see how that kind of develops over time.
Even in IT world, like even in help desk world, one of the very first things we did is we created a ticketing system 5 years ago. We called it Help Hub. So it wasn't like IT support desk. We had a dream that every department here would be in Help Hub and have agents. And so we have a central team, and then that central team supports all the campus teams. So we create product, training, resources. It's part of the mission of what we do for all the campus teams who are kind of on the ground executing what we do at the campus level. And so we had this dream of how do we create a one-stop shop for help? And so somebody on the campus, they maybe have something broken and they have no clue who to reach out to. What we don't want them to do is call someone and them go, that's not my problem, that's facilities problem. And then call facilities and have them go, nah, that's a production problem. And so what we did is we created a system called Help Hub. It's driven by a help desk system. Just any of the ones out there you can do it with. We branded everything. Our marketing team made logos, and we have branding shirts and everything for it. And so we started by creating this system, and we put 2 departments in it, us and our digital department. And then we just started helping people this way. And then now we have 16 departments in it. So 5 years later, we have 16 departments in it. Our team really opens up one ticket to get help, to get resourcing, to get sourcing, stuff like that. And really, we have, what's cool is we even have a I don't know category. And so instead of picking a team, if you really don't know, that's cool. Just say, I don't know. And then we have Aaron, and there's a few others, Emily, that they watch those I don't know tickets. And when they come in, they triage them. They go, oh, hey, I'm going to start you off in our marketing department. And then they'll move you off to video, or they'll move you off to next steps. And they just kind of help with that process. And so our goal is to how do we just get the fastest support possible for staff? The other thing we do with those metrics, and we've done this with IT since day one, we look at the number of tickets we get, and then that identifies what systems we should be going after. And so a really easy example of this is when I first started, we have all staffs where people come in on Tuesdays from all the campuses, and we have staff like department meetings and training and all kinds of stuff. We would have people just walking up and going, hey, I have 8 patches that need done on my laptop. I'm not an admin. Can you go ahead and do those patches? And so some churches are like, everyone's an admin. And we're like, ooh, that's a cyber no-no. And so here we were trying to hold this line of like, no, not everyone's an admin. Thank you. But everyone's like, well, we need this stuff to work. And so we bought an MDM, and now it patches in the background, and now no one has to walk up and ask us to log in anymore. And so that knocked 60 tickets off a month. And so what's the goal of help desk? 0 tickets. Will we ever get there? I don't know. That'd be cool. Probably not. But it's like, how do we get less tickets? And so Erin is always looking at all of our metrics and seeing patterns. And then she's trying to figure out what system should be next on on our roadmap to help staff. And so this year she's rolling in a predictive close. And so we're looking at AI built into our help desk system that looks at all of our training resources that we have, all of our LMS and all of our policies and learning stuff. And it is literally looking through all of those and all of our 5 or 6 years of historical tickets. And we'll actually start to say, oh, hey, you're asking about how to execute baptism during the worship set at a campus. Here's 6 pieces of documentation. And you're asking about the heater on the pool. Well, this is what you do to get support on that heater. Did we answer the question? And if we did, there's no ticket that's needed. There's no response time. There's no mean time to close. The SLA is awesome. We solved it in 30 seconds for them. And so a lot of the time in IT, we're just like, oh, you need that information here. Let me go over to this other system and pull and give you this information. And right now we're like, how do we fold AI into, oh, you have a Wi-Fi problem? Here's four ways other people have fixed it. Does that work? Awesome. Now men's, guys study and women study, and, she studies and he studies and all that stuff. Great. Now that can happen without you having to wait 30 minutes for someone to call you back and try to fix Wi-Fi for you. And that lets my tech be home at night with their family eating dinner and not get a weird phone call.
Yeah.
All that stuff's important. It's like, how do you care for your staff outside of normal hours when, Celebrate Recovery's in here doing stuff on Tuesdays, and men's studies here on Thursdays, and band practices on Wednesday nights. It's like, how do you maintain everyone's sanity? Cool. Let's figure out ways to close tickets quick, or let's figure out systems where we don't even need tickets. those are the fun ones. We enjoy those.
Yeah, it's so nuts. I mean, no one could have dreamed of this probably 20, 30 years ago, that it would actually get to this point. Obviously, everybody thought it might at some point, but I think it was a lot quicker than we had all imagined. So, but I know we're kind of coming up on time here, so I wanted to close it out by just asking how viewers can connect with you, as well as maybe one piece of advice that you have to various either ministries or businesses, because you've had a little bit of experience in both of them. And given that you work at a pretty good size church, you're probably on the upper end of size. Maybe you've got some experience in scaling that you might be able to talk about. So.
Yeah. I think folks can. Is this where we say like and subscribe and follow along for more advice? I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn there. You can connect with our church. Our church, we have a department called The Advantage, and they want to be an advantage to other churches. And so all this resources that we've created, all of the systems we've created, that whole team shares a lot of what we do for free with churches. And so we're working with, I think, the 50 largest churches in Pennsylvania, and then we're asking each one of them to work with 5 or 10 smaller churches in and around themselves. And so there's a whole team of people that want to see other churches be successful. And so we've also been told by leadership, when another church reaches out, like, do what we can to give them information, to share information. And then in October, we actually have something called All Access here, and you can come in. It's a one-day experience here, and we do a whole kind of what a gathering looks like for us, worship set and all. We do some encouraging and trying to help folks in ministry, but then we actually, for the rest of the day, we serve lunch. And the rest of the day, we open up every department. We open up everything that we're doing, and we just kind of uncover everything, and we walk folks around and go, oh, you're asking about that? This is what we do. What do you do? What can you teach us? And so it's a lot of cool stuff like that. But if you want to, go to lcbcchurch.com and go to All Access, and we love to share what we do, and we love to learn what folks are doing. So if you've got something that I said that you're like, that's crazy, and there's something better, listen, tell me. I want to be smarter too. I think the best piece of advice I can give folks is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I say it a ton. I'm always trying to learn from folks. I'm always trying to be a better leader. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me. And then I try to get out of their way. Maybe that's a Steve Jobs quote at some point in time. But I try to get out of the way and just kind of strategically set culture and goals and everything else. So yeah, if you're the smartest person in the room, I'm sorry. You need to find people that are smarter than you, that are speaking into you, that are teaching you and making you a better leader and a better tech and a better everything else. We have a lot of fun sayings around here, but that's definitely one of them. And then the last thing I would say is, for churches, if you're in IT and you're not all about the mission, if you're literally not about introducing people to Jesus, and you're not about getting technology to be a platform for that, but also to get technology to not be a distraction to that, I don't know, man. Pray about it. Reevaluate it. Refresh, renew. I don't know. Go on a sabbatical. But like, if we can't be about the mission and we can't be about introducing people to Jesus, and this is just a drag on us, like, I'm really sorry, because for me, ministry has been amazing, and watching life change happen has been so cool. And then watching our staff help and love on people and use the technology to do it has just been, I don't know if I'll ever stop doing this job, and I know I'll never stop loving it. I love what we do.
I love that. I might clip that. That's a good one. A little bit there. Totally in agreement with that. Well, John, I really appreciate you jumping on, man. And it's been a blast. It's super interesting and got a wealth of knowledge. So appreciate your willingness to join, and hopefully we'll talk here soon.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you're doing too. You are you're leading the charge of being in ministry and serving others, and man, I love that too. So thanks for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.